Hello and welcome to Raising the Barr, the go-to podcast for business owners and entrepreneurs looking to elevate their marketing game. Today, we are joined by a powerhouse in the fitness and coaching industry. He's helped over 8,000 clients get in the shape of their life, and he's coached over 1,000 coaches to take their business from 6 to 7 figures. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Charlie Johnson.
Big thank you for the intro. It's very much appreciated, and goal today is try and share as much knowledge, insights, and maybe some of the habits that have allowed me to do some of the accolades you just mentioned.
Perfect. Well, I'm looking forward to getting stuck into it. It was a bit of a tongue twister there, coaching coaches.
Yeah. And I think that we spoke a little bit about coaching coaches before the podcast. I think that is one of the things where I think if someone can get to that position, you become the highest level of authority when you can do something yourself, but then you can also teach others to do it. And I think one of the problems in the world at the moment is there's a lot of people teaching something they can't do. So like obviously you guys are masters at ads, traffic and all that type of stuff, but there's a lot of people who try and sell that from what I see, but they can't fulfill on the promises, which is why I'm guessing so many clients come to you.
Exactly. So that idea of making sure you know what you're doing before you try and teach someone. So let's go way back to the beginning with Charlie Johnson. How did your personal coaching story and journey start?
So ironically, for my sins, don't anyone hate me for this, I was an estate agent. From the age of 21 to 30 when I left my full-time job. So I originally went into that and I had a passion for fitness when I was younger. At 18, became a personal trainer. Essentially failed at that because they teach you how to train people, but they don't teach you actually how to make money and run a business. Fundamental rule of business is actually like how to get clients. So that didn't work out. Became an estate agent, went into that. At the beginning, I hated it and I basically wanted to quit on my first day, but I made it through and I became manager of a branch at like 23, 24 that was doing £1 million a year, which was, I look back now at my bosses who gave me the job and I was like, you guys were insane because that's 11 years ago, I'm 35 now and I knew nothing. But I think that's where one of the most important entrepreneurial traits is just like, you jump in and you just figure it out as you go along and you're just open-minded and you're willing to be like relentless and resilient with that type of process, because I'm sure you found through your business and people listening, there's going to be peaks and troughs and there's always going to be problems. And that was a big learning curve for me. But I saw a huge opportunity coming when I started to see what's happening on social media. So for me, when I suddenly saw this platform, I was like, okay, you can get loads of eyeballs, loads of traffic on here. I started to see people selling fitness stuff on there. I was like, this is my gateway out of the 9 to 5, stuck working for a corporate company. So I set up an online fitness business in 2017, selling £40 a month Word documents that were terrible. Eventually that scaled and I left my full-time job 25th of February 2019. I scaled that fitness business to doing $300,000-$400,000 a month. And ironically, I then went into doing something I never thought would happen and I never actually wanted to do, and it just happened by chance, was coaching coaches. Because a good friend of mine called Antoine Blanco, who's a very successful coach now, who also coaches coaches now, he basically begged me to ask him for help in terms of, how have you done this? Can you help me do the same? I was like, dude, I don't do this. I was like, I run my own business, I'm not helping you. And he's like, no, please. And I was like, okay, just made up a price. He paid it, and then I really enjoyed it. And I was like, okay, cool. This is clearly what my real passion is, because I love business, I love marketing, I love learning. And as much as I still love fitness, business has much more of an upside in terms of my ability to have more of an impact on someone's life, because I can get someone in great shape, call that like changes life. But if I help someone to build a great business, I can change the generations after them by creating financial freedom for them. So that's how I came into that and fell into that accidentally.
Okay, unbelievable. So it's interesting there that you started in the coaching game, failed, and then had the balls to come back and do it again. As you mentioned there, the big difference was when you first started out, it was still that very much in-person training model, which still obviously exists. Second time around was the very beginning of the online coaching space. For coaches, just how big has that move to online coaching been, and how much has it opened the market up?
The market is huge. So I think it's like a $13 billion market for online fitness programs. I believe it's growing like 25% per year. So what most people don't realize is it's actually getting easier and easier and easier to sell that type of product, because people want to have remote people training them. They don't want to go to the gym and be trained in person at a set time. A lot of people work from home now. They want flexibility, and they also want access to the best people in the world, which is why your ability to position yourself as an authority and sell at a global market gives you the ability to scale. And I think one of the reasons people get stuck in the one-to-one PT trap, not that it's a bad thing, I have a lot of respect for people who are great trainers, but if you think about fundamentally what you want, I wanted time freedom, location freedom, financial freedom to do what I want, when I want, with who I want. If I'm trading time for money in the gym, I can't go on, if I go on holiday, I'm not getting paid. So that was fundamentally opposite of the values of where I wanted to go. So I think about engineering businesses and what I'm doing every single day to get me to where I want to go. Whereas most people, I think, don't lift their head up and actually look at like, okay, what am I doing and why?
Yeah, 100%. So one of the main benefits of the models you can create is that people get that freedom.
Yeah.
Because I think for the rest of us, like in most businesses, it's an unfortunate situation where the more money you make, the more successful your business is, the more your businesses grow, the less freedom you get because you become tied to a team, an office, physical people. These online coaching businesses, they can grow with small teams to massive numbers.
To massive numbers and relative massive profit margins compared to a conventional business. I think the average business in the US makes 10 to 13% profit margin. A fitness coaching business or an online education business, because we help some people scale recruitment masterminds, people in finance and other types of weird businesses. Generally, if you're scaling, you can be doing 50% profit margin. You can have smaller teams, pay them less because you can hire the best talent in the world anywhere you want. And it allows you to have a bigger hiring pool. And actually, I would say one of the best things people need to have a better hiring pool, which I didn't even realize till it's happening at the moment, is building a personal brand.
Yeah.
Because I get messaged every day like, can I come work for you, do X, Y, Z? Can I come work for you, do X, Y, Z? So you just got people landing on your lap. And interesting, on the way here, I was listening to an Alex Hormozy podcast. So his business is acquiring other businesses and scaling. The reason he built his personal brand is so that people would come to him so he can acquire the business, that he's not fighting for it, which I thought was really smart. Most people don't think that far ahead.
Yeah, I mean, it's like anything in life, isn't it? If you can get people actually coming to you, you've won half the battle because you've not got to worry about that cold outreach, trying to get intros into them, etc. Before we move on to your coaching with other people, let's look first at how you scaled that business. Because we said we're going back a period of time now. You took that to $400,000
$1,000 a month.
$400,000 a month, which is huge. There weren't many other people doing that at that time. So how did you take it from £40 Word documents that you said yourself weren't very good to something that could deliver on that scale?
I look back now in hindsight and part of me dies inside. Because if I knew what I knew now, I'd have done millions a month like day one. Because, and I don't know if you agree with this, in the marketplaces you're in, the market is harder now than it was last year. The market was easier 3, 4, 5 years ago, particularly with what we're doing, which means that if you haven't already started with what you want to do, the best time to start last year, the second best time to start is today. But that being said, the way I really scaled up was focusing on getting attention and traffic, and then learning the systems and the back end processes in terms of how to optimize, convert that, build teams, and automate off the back end of it. And I didn't figure that out on my own. So I quickly realized, okay, the first time I got in really good shape and I did a photo shoot, I hired a coach, did what he told me to do, got abs, looked sick, and I was like, well, that was really easy. So then I was like, that was a penny drop moment for me, because I realized, okay, if I have a problem, if I find someone who knows what I need to do and I just pay them, I do what they tell me to do, I then get the end result. So then when I came to my business, I did the exact same thing. I've spent $350,000, $400,000 on mentors and personal development at this point to learn the different skills I need, from like paid advertising to tech to content to everything across the board. And I think the biggest thing that holds most people back, they're too scared to invest in their skills, whereas the most valuable thing you can have are your skills. Like, I got divorced. Like, in a divorce case, they can't take that away from me. They can take it like a lot of other stuff, but that's the most powerful thing you have going forwards. And if you become a highly skilled individual, you're always going to have value.
Yeah, I mean, that's an interesting thing when you see a lot of successful people and they're not actually scared of failure as much, because they know full well you strip everything back, you start again the next day. It's like our good friend Matt Haycock, when he was on the podcast, he lost everything. He said he woke up the next day, starts ringing the phone again, because you believe in yourself to do it. You've still got them skills inside you. Nobody can strip them away.
I'll give you a good example of what the importance of skills and experience. My first business maybe took me, if I say went for my full-time job when I left 2019, maybe took me 12 to 18 months to maybe do my first 100K a month. The second business that I set up, I got to 100K a month in 5 months because I knew exactly what to do, who to hire, what to do next, how to sell, what the processes should look like. And that's why the biggest tax anyone's paying is ignorance tax. So if you don't know how to run ads, either learn it yourself or get someone else to do it for you. Don't have the fear of just resting on your laurels. And the thing I say in particular, like paid ads, we're testing a lot of stuff ourselves at the moment with some weird strategies. I know 9 out of 10 of them will probably not work, but then one will work and it'll be such a big home run that it'll be the equivalent of 1,000 home runs that will just print money and then I'm good.
Yeah, exactly. It's like Gary Vee with ads. He says you pick 10, 2 will be a success if you're lucky, bin the 8 early, another 8 in, you've got to keep evolving. And the amount of people, if you want one way to burn money quicker than any before, if you don't get it right, run ads because you can flush it down the toilet so quick if you play around with that game. With just no exposure and money disappearing. Looking at the coaching game in general, what are the main elements to growing these successful businesses to that size? I'm guessing client retainment must be a huge point to that.
So one of the big things we actually have built for our clients when we use in our own business is like a growth calculator. So you can work out essentially where your growth ceiling would be. They use this a lot in software businesses. Yep. So you look at how many clients basically sign up every single month, what your average amount is you make per customer, current number of clients you have, and the current churn rate. That will essentially work out your growth ceiling of where you'll tap out. And if anyone wants this, message me on Instagram, I'll send you a link to it. Essentially, you can then work out, okay, if my churn is 12%, okay, this is where we're going to tap out. Maybe we get to 100K a month. If we get to 10%, we're going to keep growing. We get to 130K a month. Yeah. If we get to 8%, we get to 200K a month, and we do nothing else. And this is where a big thing I see a lot of people do, and transparent, I'm guilty of this. I love marketing. I love the front end stuff. I don't like the back end operations. I don't like that stuff so much. So I will try and outmarket a churn issue previously. Whereas if you have like raw data to look at in your business, it's obvious then like, okay, we can get more clients, but if we're losing them really quickly, that's a problem that we need to fix that. And then it's actually easier on the front end and the ads are more profitable from LTV that you can spend more and the whole ecosystem works.
And a really interesting point there, because obviously the marketing is the glitz and glamour of business. It's the front-facing bit. In a world at the minute, a lot of people are doing marketing quite well. I feel a huge amount of people are letting themselves down on back-end systems, procedures, structures, because it's not sexy, it's not fun, it's data crunching. But it seems like you have built a really, really solid back-end. Do you think that's been fundamental to the success?
I would say the fundamental success of that is building the team to build the back end. Yeah. So like I have built that as you go. And I'd say the way I try and think about businesses, you've got traffic, sales, fulfillment, churn, like operations, whatever. You almost have to dance between each one at any given time, depending on what the problem is. So the most important thing is working out, okay, like here are our numbers. Where's the real issue? Is it that we don't have enough leads? Is it that we're not selling correctly? Or is it we're losing too many people in the back end? Or our lifetime value is not correct? And then just try and full force fix the point of constraint. And then when you fix that, something else is going to become the next issue. And it's that constant dance in business between like lead gen, traffic, sales, fixing the back end and the churn and optimizing that is a merry-go-round that will never end as your business grows. But I also think that's one of the key things when you work with someone who has experience. I find this funny when I work with clients. I know what's going to happen before it happens because I've been there. So I'm like, okay, in 4 weeks, you're going to need another setter, you're going to need another closer, you're going to need to do X, Y, Z. And they're like, why? Because, well, look how many clients you're signing up, look how many calls you're booking. You start to take ad spend up, you can't take the calls. And I think that's where you can solve problems sometimes before they come up because you can actually plan in advance. So one good thing I always recommend people to do is, let's say you have a business makes 50K a month, you want to get to 150K a month. You should have an organizational chart of what your business looks like now. If you don't, make one. The second thing I would do is then, what does your organizational chart look like at 150K a month? How many coaches do you need? How many virtual assistants do you need? How many salespeople do you need? Like, start to think like that, and you have more of a clear vision of who you're going to need and when.
Yeah. I always think as well, maybe it's bordering slightly on manifestation, but when you create that future organizational chart and you actually think, right, I'm going to need these people in 6 months. Well, if you need them in 6 months, you best start hiring them now because we know full well what a pain recruitment is, how it goes. Once you put those people in place, you grow into your team as well. So you naturally start pushing more and more business. It's that mindset of growth, which brings us nicely into the next part. So We'll move on to the coaches that come to you and how you grow their businesses. The fun part of the chat, how we take them from zero to hero. What is the standard client that comes to you? What do they look like, and what's holding them back?
We work with a broad spectrum of clients. We have some who are starting just out from the gym floor, some doing 200-300K a month already. So it depends on the circumstance of where they're at. I'd say if we take the averages somewhere between £10,000 to £30,000 a month, the biggest problem they have is they're not tracking their data. They're not actually running like a business, and they're playing with what they're doing. So as soon as you start to open their eyes of like, okay, these are the numbers you need to know, this is how you make decisions off of it, it then becomes easy to be like, that's the problem, so then you can fix that. And I think a lot of this, you have to look at what comes first. So if your marketing and your content isn't good, then you have no one to sell, you have no one to coach, you don't have a fulfillment problem. So with those people, we'd very much make sure, you've got your data of what you need to know, the basics down. Let's optimize the front end so you've got more leads coming through. Then the second thing would be, okay, what's your closing rate in terms of like a sales percentage? So anything above 50% generally would be good, depending on how much they're selling. And then thirdly, we'll be looking at the churn, and we'll just progress through those. And I'd say one thing I see some people do is they want to go from chapter 1 to chapter 12. Like, dude, you've only just started your business and you want to run like really complicated VSL. Like, you will never be able to. This is like slower, steady, slower, steady. Like, you need to focus on the right steps rather than trying to jump the gun. And I think, I'm not sure if you see that with your clients, but I think people get a bit money hungry and they try and push their business too fast, which is, I always see people fall flat on their face, and transparently I've done that.
Yeah, 100%. People want to run before they can walk, particularly when it comes to online campaigns and things like that. Is you cannot start on day one and get to the end point. It's like people with SEO campaigns. They want to be number one on Google. They don't understand like there's other people doing it for a long period of time. And it comes back to your point before. It's that consistency, discipline, routine, just building it day after day.
And I think also leaning into technology as much as you can from a tracking perspective and automating things. I think the more you can systematize your business and take some of the heavy weight off of you is easy. So a really good piece of advice to give for anyone who's got a team to run it efficiently, particularly if it's a remote team. I'll shout out to a guy called Paul Daly, who I got this from. Basically what I do and what we do across our business, everyone sends an end of day Loom video of what they did today, what they need to do tomorrow, like what's the key thing they have to focus on, what do they need help with. Yeah. So the people who report to me will send me that. People who report to our COO will send them to him, and so on through the organization. And that allows me to have a really quick pulse of what's going on with everyone. And I actually just watch those when I'm at the gym doing cardio for like 20 minutes. And it's a really time efficient way rather than having to disrupt everyone from different meetings. Because another piece of advice I'd say is when you have a remote online business, I thought this was genius. I was like, well, I just have people across all different time zones. So I had people in Mexico, people in the Philippines, Pakistan, I'm in Dubai, UK. It was a nightmare. Yeah. It's like the most dysfunctional business you ever have because people can't talk to each other. So I would also try and keep people on fairly close time zones so the whole thing is cohesive.
I 100% agree with you there. It's like even between, I always say in Dubai, you really notice it when the UK goes back an hour because all of a sudden those calls go into 9, 10 at night. And there is a big thing for everyone being on that same time zone. With your team, is everyone remote?
Everyone is remote, yeah. The only person who's not remote is we have our head of creative and content is moving to Dubai in 2 weeks. So that for me is a strategic decision of like, this is the big lever we need to push is traffic and brand. So how's the quickest way to do that? Bring him here. He's with me all the time. Like we filmed 80 ads, 15 YouTube videos, 6 podcasts, probably 150 reels in the last 2 weeks while I've been here. It's been insane. But you can then also implement things fast when you have someone like on hand who like, okay, we need to film this. Okay, let's just do it right now. Yeah,
there's still a big thing about people need people. It's still much easier to communicate. So if we look, that person you said there, average person doing 20, 30,000 a month. They are, for people watching who might not understand the fitness industry, they are literally trainers who might have an Instagram account. Yep. They're pushing their own loose course without much structure. What's a success story of taking someone from there to where they ended up?
In terms of the success rate, the people we work with, we only work with select people who have some type of business aptitude, because if you can't implement and execute things, you've been given the great strategy and map direction to where you need to go in the world. But if you're not going to do it, then it's pointless. So our success rate is about 90% in terms of being able to actually double people's businesses within 3 to 4 months, because a lot of those people, it's so easy. So, and I'll explain why. You can see why I'm smiling and laughing, because I just joke sometimes because it's just insane. So one of the easiest ways that we sell products online from info products is from messaging, and we'll hire call setters. We can use AI chatbots, but generally I recommend call setters. So the most basic strategy we have is you create content that gets followers, you then message new followers, you try and sell them into a sales call, you then sell someone a fitness program, you rinse and repeat it. You then focus on making better content that maybe gets some virality, and then you can scale that up. Or you can also take that content, push it out on paid ads to then also get followers and do the same thing and basically put the whole thing on steroids.
Yeah. And when you're using your paid ads for fitness, they're going very heavily with social ads, are they?
Yeah.
So everything's pushed out really through Meta.
Yeah, we predominantly use everything through Meta. We've done some stuff from YouTube ads, but Meta, from my experience, seems to be the most user-friendly and easiest one for people to use. I wouldn't really recommend people going to, say, something like Google YouTube unless they had more of an advanced business or something like a very, very specific niche that maybe like you're a gut health expert. And you really wanted to go down something like super narrow. Yeah.
So you're taking these guys, you are effectively increasing the quality of their social media output, really getting more eyes on them, greater visibility. As we all know, more visibility inevitably means more leads. What about the actual product they're offering? Is that something you get involved with as well?
We do, and I'd actually say the second thing that sits in the middle there, which is a big problem, most people don't charge enough.
Okay.
So the first thing we look at is, okay, if you're, say for example, taking sales calls, if you're closing at like 80%, your product's far too cheap because you should get some people say no. So the one thing we do is we try and nudge people's pricing up constantly, because obviously you would know this from an ads perspective. If you can get the LTV much higher and the amount of money you make per customer, you can then scale way, way more depending on what your CAC is. So the reality of that is a game of trying to get their numbers up in terms of pricing point to max that, and then also from a fulfillment aspect, make sure their product has like a 5-star onboarding process, really, really slick, and the whole thing is actually built to scale. Because, and I've done this, I've tried to scale chaos. Like when COVID happened, did you ever hear of something called Direct Heroes? It was like a plugin on Instagram that was like roping. It would do like auto responding.
Was that the one that did the bot following as well?
No, I don't know if it did bot following. Basically, when COVID happened, barely anyone was running ads because everyone thought the world was coming to an end. I'd found this system called Direct Heroes that got shut down by Instagram. This was before, I think, automated ManyChat came out. Yeah. And essentially, it would send like auto replies to DMs. So I was getting leads coming in for like £1. I had like an autoresponder just firing out, and it was wild. To the point we were scaling so fast that I had to hire like 7 coaches in the week because we had so many clients coming, like we couldn't take them. Yeah. And that was a big lesson I also learned of, okay, you can't actually hire people that quickly, because then all those people end up causing more problems later on in the business, which, you know what I said earlier, like slow is smooth. Yeah. Like you have to go step by step. And also for anyone listening to this, like, could you 4x your business in a week and handle the volume? Probably not. You don't have the infrastructure for that. So I think it's also being mindful where your capacity limits are, so you don't break your business, but then also break your reputation.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you've got to grow at we can all grow quickly, but we've got to grow at a sustainable pace as well. With these clients you're growing, do they, in terms of building their team, what kind of things do they need to do internally to scale that business?
This is the general process I'd recommend what people hire. So first person I would actually hire would be a videographer editor, because visibility beats ability. If you get eyeballs and you become known, like the more people who know you, the more people can give you money, essentially. The second thing would be like a virtual assistant or a call setter, someone to handle like messaging replies. Third thing would then be a coach to then start to take yourself out of fulfillment. You're probably going to need more setters and coaches, and you'll get up to maybe like 40 to 70,000 a month. And at that point, you'll be the point where you don't want to take so many sales calls. You'll then need someone to come in and actually be able to take some of those sales calls for you, which is a very different art in terms of building sales teams. I've built 3 that do multiple 7 figures a year. Salespeople are emotional, difficult to deal with, and it's probably the most expensive thing you're going to do, because they will not sell people that you would sell. So I would actually say one of the big things we really help clients with is actually managing that process, because I have seen that go incredibly wrong a million times. So like, to give an example, someone has a coaching business, they're making 60K a month. They're like, I've now got a closer, he can take all the calls. So it's like, you've just given all of your revenue to someone who's new, who doesn't really know what he's doing, and then they wonder why their revenue like fucking tanks.
And who doesn't care a lot of the time as well.
It's not his business.
It's not his business, is it? Yeah.
So the slow is smooth thing again is like, you have to give them like slow increments and test them out, see if they're good before you start to open the tap. And that's where I said earlier, it's like the dance between lead gen, like traffic, sales, and fulfillment. It's always going to be that constant like rotation.
Yeah. And with what you said, I'm a good delegator in some ways, but I'm a terrible delegator at other tasks. And people always say, that's not important. Why don't you pass that on? I think a lot of the time, these things that people perceive as not important is some of the most important aspects of your business. You know, checking in with clients, keeping everyone happy. And when you hand that over to someone straight away who doesn't care the same, that shines through. And it's easy to get your legs chopped from underneath you, isn't it, very quickly?
Yeah, and I see that happen a lot. I think I see people as their businesses grow, they try to withdraw themselves too quickly. And they start playing golf 4 times a week, like going to the beach clubs in Dubai. And then I see their business slowly dwindle down. And then they're in that like roller coaster, because I see this happen a lot. I don't know if you've seen it in businesses where people crush it for 2-3 months, they start to coast, the business dips, and then suddenly they're killing themselves, the business comes back up again, business starts doing well, so then they start to chill out again, business goes back down. And I think that's also where you have to have an understanding of what actually drives the business, like the Pareto principle of 20% of actions get 80% of results. So that's really the way I try and look at, like, for example, I'm going to Las Vegas for some events next week. I'm getting an award at Fun Hacking Live and going to a Hormozy workshop. The time zone is a nightmare. It's a 12-hour time difference from here. So I will just focus on the 20% of things I have to do, knowing that I can't really communicate with the rest of the world. And that is where you can also maybe give yourself a little bit of rest when you need to, but also the ship's not going to sink.
Yeah. No, I think that's a great point you make there about when people do start making money, they start making actions that are negative towards their business and always also negative towards life in general. Like, you see people suddenly start clocking up 3 months of holiday a year. Yeah. Now, like you said there, you can go away and work, concentrate on what you want to do. 2 weeks in Mykonos, pissed every night. Yeah. You're not just losing that 2 weeks, you've lost a week afterwards in recovery as well. And I always think when you're doing well in life, that is the time to push harder than ever, because good times don't last forever. So make hay while the sun shines and just keep driving forward.
Business is about momentum, because when you have momentum, you get confidence and it just loops. I think it's difficult to build momentum. And also, like, I'm a big believer in terms of habit stacking. So, for example, this year I've got up every day before 5 a.m. so far. I don't know, it's like 23rd or something today. I got up, I think, at 4, because I like to work early and then just get loads of stuff done before anyone distracts me. And I gamify that process by, like, I journal and I write down like day 23 on, I call it like 75 scale. I'm trying to do it 75 days in a row and alongside some other habits. And the more you almost like gamify your business, which is actually what I think you should do because you make it fun, you take away some of the responsibility maybe for some extrinsic outcomes you can't control, like revenue, signups. As long as you focus on what you have to do and you do your best and you deep down know that you're like doing the right things, the outcomes will eventually come. It's just that process of delayed gratification.
Exactly. And I think that's one issue with the world in general today, is that everyone wants that short-term fix, don't they? The idea of hustling away to earn it over a long period isn't as attractive as before. You mentioned a very interesting point earlier, which is the bigger the personal brand, the bigger the business exposure. You mentioned guys like Alex Hormozy, who's obviously done it massively well. We also look at other people, you know, like Kim Kardashian and Skims. Yeah. That whole Skims brand is actually built off her at the front end. But even now in business, like industries you would never imagine, the figurehead is building personal brand. How essential has your personal brand been for the businesses?
Well, I wouldn't be sitting here on this podcast if it wasn't for that. And I think every business now has to have a figurehead. The best example of this is Elon Musk.
Yeah.
Like Tesla, SpaceX wouldn't be what they are if it wasn't the brand of Elon Musk. Like, are Tesla's cars good? Yeah. Like, do I think they're the best looking? Probably not. Do people just buy them because they think Elon Musk is really cool and they resonate with him? A lot of people will do. And I think that's where you can then become a key person of influence, which is essentially what you want to be looking to do. Because if you can become the authority in your industry, people will naturally want to follow you. Everyone wants a leader to follow, which is, in my opinion, why Donald Trump's now coming to president, because people want a strong leader to follow who's very direct. Whereas I think we live in a world at the moment where there's a lot of people who aren't like that. And I think also from a business point of view, bigger businesses need to have a strong leader who people respect and look up to. And I think if you do build some type of brand behind you, that automatically gives you credibility. And I'll give you a good story actually with this. I was thinking about this morning. I had a call yesterday with a guy who consults, basically trains him in ads. He runs ads for like Jerry Minor, loads of other like massive info products, like the biggest ones in the world. Does free coaching calls with me because I have a big personal brand and I can intro him to other people. It's like the value to that for me is insane.
Yeah.
So I think I was just thinking about that this morning. I was like, this is actually wild. And I also thought about how do I get introduced to this guy? I got introduced to him because I spent money to go to a mastermind event that was like $5,000. Mm-hmm. Someone recommended him to me, and then we got connected. And I think that's also where your brand and authority and your network really starts to build and compound over a period of time.
Definitely. And what about compared to when you started out? The market, obviously, the fitness industry has grown exponentially in that period, but it's also become more and more competitive, more and more noise, more and more cowboys entering. Yeah. How is it cutting through the noise now compared to 5 years ago?
I think the biggest thing everyone needs to focus on is being themselves. Yeah. So
that authenticity.
And that's the biggest thing that's lacking, because if anyone wants a hack of how to make really easy viral content, if you go onto TikTok, and you can go into, not in America now, but you can go into TikTok, go to search, hit the top 3 like buttons on the right, look for last 3 months, most liked fat loss tips for men. Yeah. Come up with all the viral videos. You can download that video. You can then put it into an app called Descript.
Yeah.
You can get that.
I love Descript.
Yeah. You can then put that into Claude.ai, rewrite the script, keep the same hook, make the same reel. If you film it the same way, it'll basically go viral.
It's literally just taking what's out there, copying it, repurposing it.
And that is how simple it is. And this is actually why it's easier than ever before. And my mind's been, like I told you, I've been filming an insane amount of content the last 2-3 weeks. Yeah. My mind's actually been blown how much content we can make with AI, with teleprompters, with like editors all over the world. It's insane. I think although it's competitive, you have more tools at your disposal than ever before that actually make it easier. And you also have the most important thing that I didn't have when I started, which is the information. Yeah. Like on my YouTube channel, I got stuff that teaches you how to do anything for completely free. But when I started, I had no idea. Like I was just trying to figure out, no one was really doing it. And I really became the pioneer, particularly the UK, for the online space. And I blazed the path through that. I made a lot of huge mistakes and fuck ups because I didn't know any better and didn't have anyone to stop me hit the iceberg.
I was actually going through your content last night and a good look at it. When I clicked on, I saw you in a pair of handcuffs. I wondered what I'd actually tuned in for.
That's another site.
Yeah, but it's amazing. So for anyone in any industry that wants their content to go viral for bigger outreach, you would literally say, let's just repeat that tip for anyone, because I think this is a game changer that people are getting today. You go onto Instagram.
I do it on Twitter, but you can do the same on Instagram. So if you go on Instagram, go onto your Reels feed and just look for what's trending. Okay. And you can do the same thing. Like what I do is I have a second account. Yeah. Anyone wants to look, it's Real Charlie Johnson, and I've always taught that algorithm the type of stuff I like.
Yeah, mate. It's brilliant with these accounts. If you watch enough of one thing, you will get that every single day. And the ideas you can pick up, like you say, take another account and only visit the stuff that's applicable to your industry. It's like even with our industry, we've got an account where I'll be completely open with it. We follow agencies around the world and that. Yeah. We see what they do. Are we copying it? No, I wouldn't want to think we're copying it. Are we taking inspiration? 100% yes.
Yeah. The best example of inspiration is Pablo Picasso said that. He literally looks at what someone else does, makes his own iteration of it, because that's what people want. Yeah. That's what works, right? And if I was to give another huge hack when you're looking for, say, for example, I'll give you 2. So one for Reels, just scroll. Just keep scrolling. What makes you stop and want to look? Yeah. That's the thing you want to make. So that's what I would do from a Reels perspective. The other thing I do to make my own content, I would go into Claude.ai and be like, let's say we're going to use fat loss tips for men, for example. Give me 20 viral hooks for Instagram, for Reels, that are fat loss tips for men over 35. Pretend you're Dan Kennedy, the copywriter. Here's 10 of our client case studies of people we've helped. Here's the unique mechanism we use, like whatever your method is. It will then give you 20 different hooks, and I'll just read through and be like, which one makes me stop and want to keep reading? Like, creates a curiosity gap. Yeah. And then essentially I will then I'll say it's 20 hooks. I might write down 1, 3, 7 I like. Please write me a full written video reel script for this of 1, 3, 5, and 7. Press enter. Done.
And you use Claude.ai, but I'm guessing people could do that with ChatGPT or any AI.
You can, but the language models in Claude.ai are far superior from my opinion. Yeah. I spoke to an ads guy who has done over 500 million of revenue, and when he said to me, "This is far superior," so I was like, "Okay, I'll try it." And I tried it. And I was like, "Okay, this is much better." And I give an example of like the difference. I maxed out the usage on Claude.ai, even with the paid version. I got blocked for a day, so then I had to go and use ChatGPT to finish something, and then the copy just wasn't as good.
Yeah. So there's another tip for everyone: get on Claude.ai. And I think it's just such a good point for people is that people sometimes appear to be scared to copy things or take inspiration. People are trying to have unique ideas. Unique ideas come around very, very rarely. If you can find a fantastic idea from someone else, copy it, change it slightly to your own personality, and execute it better, you found a winning model before you even begin.
So one of the things I do from a Facebook ads perspective, I'll go into Facebook ad library, look up Grant Cardone, for example, look at all the ads he's running, like what's been running for a long time because it's probably profitable, and then a completely different niche than me, I would take the theme and the style of that ad and make my own variation. So if I was to give an example of one that's crushing for us, he had one that was like, I can't remember what the copy was, but it was like maybe 10x your revenue, blah, 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 blah. So I made one which was with a black background, just plain white text, looks really terrible, but it's like a pattern interrupt. So I made one that was like how to 10x your audience or 10x your lead flow, something along those lines. Yeah. Absolutely crushed. Like the simplest thing to make. And this is what I find funny is that sometimes the worst ads that I've filmed myself just to try and get something out there will outperform the ones that are done professionally by a videographer, which I find amusing. But sometimes it's because of the authenticity, like we said earlier on.
Yeah, we had an American guy on here last year who's obviously achieved a lot of success then. He was saying his videos, as soon as he starts doing professional production stuff, the engagement falls off a cliff. When it's him, his iPhone, a tripod, smashes it every time.
So on organic content, there's something that's true, that if you actually film content on the phone, and then also if you edit something in the app, the video has metadata on it, it will actually get pushed more in the algorithm as being like organic, authentic than something that's filmed on a like proper Sony expensive camera. Yeah. Which is what I actually find funny in hindsight. The reason I did very well at the beginning is with my fitness business, I was one of the first people to start using really high quality cameras. Mm-hmm. So my content really stood out because everyone's using like an iPhone 5 and I've got like a $3,000 camera that's being used with a videographer. So like automatically this looks way more professional.
Yeah. Okay, brilliant. And then looking at the community aspects you built, obviously you're now in a position you've got where you're coaching the coaches through the online leads, etc. You've now got this community aspect you've built. You've done seminars, workshops, trips. How have these things come about and how's that helped the business grow as well?
I think about sometimes business tactics and strategies to grow don't have to be scalable. What I mean by that is that you can build a wildly profitable online business offline. So the most powerful thing is like someone meets Jamie in person, they can feel you, touch you, feel you, like your aura about your energy. And I think that has a huge amount of power when people spend time with each other in person. And I can give a great example of that. We do 3 really big mastermind events a year. We did 2 in Dubai last year, 1 in Marbella. And a guy called Tanashuk, really big YouTuber, has got 400,000 or 500,000 subs. He got invited by a friend of mine who was speaking. He transparently said he didn't like me beforehand because he just had an opinion of, for like whatever reason that people have negative beliefs. He came and he literally blew his mind that all these people with way smaller audiences were making 4 or 5 times as much as him. Like, to give an example, there was a girl who's 24, who's making $233,000 a month. She doesn't have lives in Dubai. She hasn't got a massive Instagram account. And she went on stage, got an award, and like you just see people's faces drop, particular guys like that who 35, his next pro CrossFit athlete. That is when you suddenly realize, okay, this is possible. If these people are doing it, maybe I need to open my mind to it, which is why I think one of the most powerful things in life is the law of exposure. Once you're exposed to something, you can't be unexposed. It's like we spoke a bit before the podcast. Yeah. You move to Dubai, you're suddenly like, well, I'm not a big fish here anymore. There's levels, right?
Yeah. I mean, I think we all, and like you said before, people do undervalue themselves. And I think it's something we're all guilty of. Because if you charge one price for a period of time, you kind of start to believe that's your worth. And I think it's not until you step out and you start to see what other people are charging and you think like, fuck me, either they're massively overpriced or I'm underpriced here. But I think across the board, what blows my mind with it all is that it tends to be the best people in the industry who are underpricing themselves. And then you get, I mean, I don't want to name names here and that, but there's been someone in our industry doing it with no experience, literally fresh to the market. They're going out trying to charge 50,000 dirhams a day for workshops. And you start to, it seems to be those ones who are almost like, I don't know where they're trying their luck or what, but the people that have done it for years seem to have undervalued themselves. And these newcomers with very little for them have brought the price up sky high.
I can give a funny story to that just made me resonate with something is when I was a estate agent managing a branch, one of the big problems we had with staff who'd been there a while, they had a preconceived idea of leads. Like, that's not a good lead. They won't buy that. They won't look at that house. The new person, open-minded, they'll show them everything. And they would sell something to someone who they didn't think, like everyone else wouldn't have even bothered showing. And I think that's where a lot of the time it's like these limiting beliefs in our mind. If I was to give you a good example as well, and this is what I would actually recommend people do from a business perspective if you don't particularly want to work with a client, something that really broke a limiting belief for me is I pitched a client last year $100,000 to work with them one-to-one because I didn't really want to do it. And I knew it was going to be a pain in the ass. So I was like, at what point is this worth it? And I was like, I don't really want to do this. So I was like, I'm just going to do this. So I pitched it. She said no, which I was fine with. I didn't really want to do it. But that broke a limiting belief for me of like, you just told someone you're 100 grand to work with. So that changed the perspective and like a cog in my head almost.
Yeah. Yeah. So those ceilings we have, which is no one's ever going to pay for this.
Yeah.
There will always be someone willing to pay something. And for those listening, what would to work with you one-on-one for 100,000, what would someone be getting for that?
So essentially, will come into their business and like consult with them weekly. So we'd help you in terms of ad strategies, marketing, look at whatever the problem is. Like I'm potentially looking to be working with someone with an equity stake who's actually building essentially like a hotel chain in Saudi Arabia because they need help in terms of like front-end marketing, ads. Like I'm very good from a creative standpoint of hooks because I'll take what works in our industry and just change it. So like one of the things that works really well for us is like, do you want time freedom, financial freedom, time freedom, location freedom, financial freedom. Yeah. So like that would be a hook that I would then manipulate to maybe another niche because generally the same things will cross over. And I think, I don't know if you agree on this, alongside obviously the targeting and the rest of the setup, if the ad creative isn't good and the hooks aren't good, it's not going to work. So you have to get the branding and the marketing and like the real pain points, like someone's like, whoa, that's me, I need that.
Yeah, I mean, there's also, I think, with the ads, you've got to have the good ads. There's a lot of people who don't study the results of the ads in enough detail either. Like, there are genuinely people who are running ads for no other reason than they've always run ads.
Yeah.
They're scared to turn them off. When you actually break down the data, you go, you're achieving nothing from doing it. Like, I genuinely scrap them all and start again. But why would you spend all that money on ads if you're not going to learn from it?
And I think one of the best pieces of advice I should give from an ads perspective I found, and I did this week, I filmed a load of new ads out of the 60 we did. One of them halved our cost per lead and also halved our CPM, like cost per 1,000 views. So we're like printing leads coming through. Yeah. This isn't an ad to get followers, but we're also getting loads of followers who are qualified leads as well. So it's building me an audience. So then what I did is, okay, this ad, why is this working? I actually didn't like the start of it in terms of visually. It looked a bit weird in terms of the coloring. So we then shot 3 more variations of that to split test it to see if we can take the same copy but improve the original ad. Because obviously the messaging is resonating. So then, okay, that's proof of concept. Let's then change how can we improve and optimize this further.
Yeah, and that's great that you're always not happy with what you've got. You're pushing that a little bit further. So we've covered a lot of detail there on the industry and also how to scale business, the great opportunity for ads. I think we've focused a lot on limiting beliefs, which I think is appropriate to everyone really, that so much of what we do is limited by ourselves. If we look at the fitness industry on a whole, you've seen so many changes in it, you've seen so many opportunities. Where's it going now? What's going to be where can this industry go to?
So the industry is going to continue to grow at a rapid pace because we have a never-ending obesity problem. We've also got a population that's becoming a lot more self-conscious and aware of the way they look, obviously heavily driven by social media. Yeah. However, there's one thing that's coming in, and that's always here, but most people are oblivious to it. And this is the thing I'm obsessed with. We've spoken about it a lot already on this podcast, is AI. I recorded a podcast last week with a guy called John Lee. He showed me some stuff that literally like blew my mind, and I was like, whoa, this is nuts. And essentially what's going to happen, there's people who are going to have the superpower of being able to use these things, who will be able to scale rapidly. And anyone who isn't using them, is going to get left behind. So I think what will happen is you end up with a lot of coaches scaling very quickly, but the people who aren't adopting the new strategies and also maybe even moving with the way the platforms change, because they constantly change, are the people who start to struggle, which is why we live in a knowledge and information society, which is why it actually comes down to like network a personal brand again. If you know the right people, like my friends will just message and be like, have you just seen this? We're doing this is sick, you should try it. People just tell you stuff for free because everyone wants to help each other, like if you're in the right environment. And you spoke about community. What I've really built is what I wanted for myself 5 to 7 years ago, where you've got this community of like 300 trainers, 300 people with online businesses crushing it, where everyone's sharing what works for them. So like you can all win together as a team almost.
I think people need to change their mindset with AI to some degree, because people are terrified of it in that, you know, using AI makes people believe their skills are becoming somewhat redundant or they could be replaced by it. But actually, AI should be our superpower. It's like getting up in the morning and putting your Superman outfit on. Yeah. You know what I mean? You've just got the potential to do more. Things that used to take you an hour, you could now do in 10 minutes. So you should have the potential to be putting an output out at maybe 8 times, but it's utilizing it to your advantage.
And that's why I did a podcast with Dan Priestley, and he explained this really well. He was like, instead of a marketing team, maybe 100, you have 3 people who are super advanced, who are sick, who just use AI. Yeah. The same thing for me. Yesterday, I rewrote an entire funnels copy in 10 minutes. Just copy paste into Claude.ai, rewrite this and change it for this Facebook ads lead magnet thing. Done, copy paste done. Like that would have taken me an hour and a half maybe.
I mean, it's even with documents and some boring things that used to take you, you know, you're writing some marketing collateral. Obviously, it requires your input because I think you can't be 100% reliant on AI. But the time-saving mechanisms behind it, even for people who, you know, people who don't have maybe as much knowledge on ads or organic, etc., they can be doing basic keyword research, basic hook research, everything now through these platforms, can't they?
And the barrier to entry is so low. I don't know what Claude.ai is, like £15 a month.
Yeah.
Instagram is free, Facebook is free, YouTube is free. You can film it on your iPhone, costs you nothing. Mm-hmm. So it's never been easier than before to actually start an online business. Yeah. The problem is people were just afraid. And if you actually look at our parents' generation, that was scary to start a business. Yeah. You need the premises, you need your staff and payroll. Whereas now it's so much easier, which is why there's more opportunity than ever before, but people just have to be willing to take it and then also find the skills that they actually need.
Yeah. I mean, AI over the next few years is going to be so exciting as well, because there's some businesses coming to the market. I saw one the other day where they literally provide you a whole AI team. So you've got like your copywriter, you've got your marketer, you've got your branding, etc. Now, when you actually look at it now, the whole system's written on OpenAI. It's not actually anything that ChatGPT and Claude isn't. So a lot of them do come up slightly short. But once these things actually get it right, it's going to be unbelievable. Like, you're going to be able to have an entire team of 10 people working for your business who are all AI, learning about you every day, never taking a day off, never forgetting anything.
And if I'm honest, we've already consolidated our team down a lot and saved a lot of money because of this. Yeah. We got rid of our copywriter, don't need him. Like that, we can write anything we want. So like, it is what it is. And I think that's the beauty of this, is you also just have to look at the opportunities. Mm-hmm. And markets always change over time. There's AIs coming in, whether people like it or not, but it's just your ability to adapt with the times. If you look at why human beings are still around and the dominant creature on the planet, is our ability to adapt. Yeah,
and it would be interesting to see, like you said there, with the copywriting and stuff, because obviously in terms of organic and SEO and rankings, etc., there's always been some debate from Google whether it's going to penalise AI content or not. So obviously that's kept the copywriters busy, because everyone's very nervous to generate AI-related content in case Google changes something in a year's time, pulls all that content down. But I mean, if, like you said, if, for example, Google go, right, we're prioritising that, there's opportunities left, right, and centre.
I'm smiling because it just reminded me of something. This conversation I had with John Lee last week. He showed me a video that he had made as a reel that was, I knew it was AI because I knew what I was looking at, but like 95% of people wouldn't. It was so good that just auto-generated of him in front of the Burj Khalifa. Yeah. And I think that's where you also have to look in probably in 2 years' time. Yeah. You'll be able to make content at AI that's not even you.
Oh, yeah. It'll be a game changer. I mean, it's going to be worrying for certain aspects as well, but it's definitely going to change the game. So, final few points to round up. You spoke earlier about the hundreds of thousands of pounds you have invested in yourself. Mentors, personal development courses, you really exposed yourself to as much as possible. If we look at people in general, I'd say they spend money on their clothes, they spend money on the beers, they spend money taking girls out. They spend very little on their personal development. Just how key has that been to your success?
The biggest force multiplier you have in your life is your skills. So if you learn the right skills and then you then also apply yourself, you can achieve anything. And I think that is something that's also going to compound for you over time. So I'll explain why you have a multiplier effect from different skills. So let's say I learned to run Facebook ads. Then let's say I learn how to make copy and ads that convert from AI. And then let's say I also learn the skill of how to talk well on camera. Okay, cool. Then I can crush it in terms of getting lead flow. Yeah. Then I need to learn the skill of sales. I can then basically grow any business at that point. Yeah. And that's where these things bounce and stack off each other. And I think from my perspective, the entrepreneurs who do the best, they're like the employees at Google. They have people who are like a T. So they have a good understanding and good ability across the board. So I can make funnels, run tech, talk on camera, do whatever. But they can go really deep in one thing. So if you're really good in one thing, I'd really try and make that a world-class superpower, but also make sure you're well-rounded across the board in the other skills. But the one warning message I would give is that biggest tax you will pay in your life is ignorance tax. And I'm paranoid about the things that I don't know. And the reason I execute like that straight away is like, when I find something out, I'm like, how did I not know this? Like, other people are doing this right now. I have to do this right now, because the biggest thing you can have is opportunity cost. And the sooner you implement something, the sooner you get the reward. And also from ads, organic content, whatever, there's a lifespan where something works and then it dies off. So you have to get in early before it starts to drift off, before the next thing comes in.
Definitely. It's that hunger to just learn all the time. I always drive people crazy because I can't watch a film or a TV show without, like, someone will say something, I'll be like, I don't know about that. I'm on Google looking it up, Wikipedia. It's just that always trying to get a little bit more out of life. Out of all the people who've mentored you, the seminars you've attended, etc., is there one piece of advice, one thing someone said that's really stuck out for you?
I would say it's actually something one of my dad's friends said to me, who was very successful, owned $400 million of land in the UK. And he was talking about investments, but I would apply this to skills as well. And expensive today, cheap tomorrow. It's like what you're paying now might seem expensive, but what's the ramifications long term? Like, instead of thinking what will it cost, what will it cause? And that's why, for me, like last year I flew to an event in LA, cost me maybe 30 grand to go there with the flights and all that type of stuff. A guy called Bedros Keuilian said one thing to me. I was like, that's why I flew here. Like, I went to the other side of the world and back. So someone said one sentence, because one sentence, one piece of information can change your life. But the biggest problem you have right now is you don't know what that is.
What was the sentence?
It was essentially doing what's called a FLIT training, so future leaders in training. Yeah. So actually doing leadership training and developing my team. So now we have a weekly call where I would train and develop my team in terms of how to be more efficient, how to be more productive, and like pour my skill set into them, which seems really obvious in hindsight, but I hadn't thought about that. And this is a guy who's running 9-figure businesses. I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to listen to you.
100%. And to round us up today, Charlie, if you could go back to your younger self at the start of the journey, what's the one piece of advice you would have given yourself then, the one thing that you would have done differently?
I actually filmed a video on this yesterday. I procrastinated for 8 to 9 months leaving my full-time job as a estate agent. I was making maybe 10K a month. I had a salary, I was making 75K a year. I was comfortable. That's the most dangerous position you could be in. The biggest thing I would say is I should have taken the leap sooner and backed myself. Yeah. And I'd be another 9 months ahead, or I don't even know where I'd be. But that's the biggest thing I say, is just believe in yourself, take the leap going forward, and just go all out action. And you'll fail, but you'll learn. You'll fail and you'll learn, but eventually you'll win. 100%.
Well, Charlie, thank you very much for joining us today. It's been great having this conversation with you. For everyone out there, give Charlie a follow on Instagram. He's going to tell you where to follow him now. Across there, not just for people in the fitness industry, but anyone looking for some motivation, some inspiration, but also I think across any industry, he's got fantastic tips on how you can scale your business, be that through ads, be that through social, be that through outreach, as you've seen today. where can everyone find you?
My Instagram's at Charlie Johnson Fitness for really specific tactical business advice, like a lot of stuff we've spoken today. If you type in Charlie Johnson scaling systems in YouTube, there's like 200-300 videos there of like even me going stuff on whiteboards and just giving everything away for free. And then we've also got our own podcast, The Charlie Johnson Show. We've done a lot of stuff on AI recently, so there'll probably be a lot of value for people related to this conversation as well.
Perfect. Well, I'm sure everyone's got some really good, helpful tips out there today. I know I have, and even more if you follow Charlie on socials. Thank you to everyone for joining us for another episode of Raising the Bar. We have some fantastic guests coming up over the next couple of weeks. Please do remember to follow us, like us, subscribe on whatever platform you digest our content. Thank you very much.